You've come to the United States this week with a specific proposal. You're taking that proposal to the United Nations Summit in New York as well. Mm-hmm. It's for a human rights tribunal. Can you explain what you're hoping to achieve with that?
Well, firstly, the very fact that we're focusing on the forcibly displaced is because of the sheer magnitude of the problem in our region. Often, the focus is largely on Syria, on Iraq. It's forgotten that 20% of all this refugee, asylum seeker, internally displaced people movement is that 20% is made up of Afghans today. In 1 year alone, Pakistan has seen a surge of 46% in the internally displaced. India has these waves of displacement, and we're not talking about displacement once, but multiple displacements over 20 years, 30 years. They don't go away. Just a new wave comes and settles on it, and therefore you get really rising numbers, but no recognition. They're invisible. So how do you make them visible? So the idea is there is a whole tradition of people's tribunals, right from the Russell Tribunal in the 1970s, and multiple permanent people's tribunals. Tribunals are people, and in this case women, asserting their right to democracy, their right to citizenship, their right to, in fact, recovering their sovereign authority, to say, we want a public platform in which we we expose the violations that we have been subjected to. We pinpoint who is the violator, and we pinpoint what is it that we want.
Right. What would it take to create something like that? Ultimately, who are you appealing to get that done? And what's been your approach to making the case?
Well, firstly, we had to listen to what the women said. What is it that their needs, to try and understand what is the nature of the kind of violations that they are actually concerned about. So one was, in fact, the kind of fact-finding that you have to do at the basic level. Since we are anxious to have a process that is driven from the grassroots, the idea was maybe we should also have national level processes so that more people are involved. And they feel they take ownership of a process, and that very process is very empowering for women. But that's an ambitious two-tier process. The other is, of course, we have to do the regional process. Now, regional process, when you say, where would you do it? You can't do it in India. You certainly can't do it in Afghanistan or Pakistan. So given the hostility...
Just because of safety concerns? Or
hostility. Yeah. A Pakistani speaking about her state in India would be already, charges of sedition, anti-national brought. You don't want that. So, and would they feel comfortable enough to want to speak in India? In Pakistan, security levels, and in Afghanistan, security levels would rule it out. So we would have to look at a third country. It means your expenses immediately go up. Could do it in Europe, could do it in Canada, could do it in the US, because you have a huge diaspora. Our governments are very sensitive about what is said here. And there would be, I think, media interest as well in this, as well as what we're saying is, you can't walk away from this region. The destabilization of the region is part of your responsibility. You've created it also. So it's not only that, it's a venue and a convenient venue. It's also saying responsibility needs to be shared. And it needs to be shared at very concrete levels. So the idea is, one, to draw some attention to this, the fact that you can't walk away from this problem. The other is to say, whatever standards you establish for refugees, for protection standards, need to apply also for the internally displaced.